Hi, thank you very much. I'm Raelcun. I use they, them pronouns. I'm here to do Deathsmiles, which is a gothic horror-inspired cave shooter. I've got Charbunny here next to me. He's going to help me with most of the talking.
I'll do my best. Happy to be here. My name is Charbunny. I use she, her pronouns.
And just as a quick explanation, cave shooters are known for the fact that they have a lot of slowdown, and then they use that slowdown to balance some of the hard attack waves. So you'll see so many bullets on screen that the game slows down. And then in some instances, without that slowdown, you wouldn't be able to dodge that many bullets on screen. So it's a big part of cave shooters. Deathsmiles in particular is unique because it's not a side scroller. It's not a vertical scroller. It does both, and enemies are going to come from all directions, and I can shoot in all directions. So it's more of a 360-degree shooter, and it adds an interesting level of complexity. I'm going to be doing a high score showcase here. We're going to try for a 1cc while showing off some of the high scoring strategies. Then if I make too many mistakes, we're just going to play a little safer and try to get the 1cc.
All right, how are you feeling? You ready to get started?
Yeah, let's get in here. We'll start timer when we select the stage here. So we're going to play as Sakura. The version we're playing is Mega Black Label 1 version 1.1, and we're going to be playing Sakura on level 3, which is the highest scoring difficulty. Not the hardest difficulty, but the highest scoring difficulty. We're going to be doing all stages, so we're going to be doing both of the optional stages before we get there, which will bring us to death mode level 3 before we get to the end, which will make the final bosses a little bit harder. They'll have some extra attacks they normally wouldn't have. So let's get started here in 3, 2, 1, go.
Awesome! I'm so excited for this. So we're starting off in C1 Lakeshore. You may have noticed that we picked our stage to start. We do have a few different options, but we want to pick this one first to sort of set ourselves up to get even more points in a later stage. The way that we're going to get points is by collecting these items that you're going to start to see spawn in. There's a whole bunch of different ones that we'll talk about in a moment, but the first thing we're going to think about is how do we get more of them? The key here is going to be the ground. We don't have the ground right now. It's going to show up a little bit later. But what happens is when items hit the ground, they bounce, they turn into more items, and that gets us more points. So what we're going to be trying to do is set things up early here so that we can kill an enemy on the right side of the screen, which will have its items bounce to the left, so they bounce as many times as possible before getting to us, splitting into pieces. Here we go. Look at everything just raining out. You can see chaos happening right off the get-go. Whew, that is so many things at once. So you can start to see some of these items. Platinum crowns are going to be the items that on their own are worth the most points, but they split into 2 gold crowns when they hit the ground. And those gold crowns split into ruby crowns, bringing our total number of items up to 4, which can split into skull rings, which brings our total number of items up to 8. So watch those things bounce on the ground, and when they turn into skulls, that's where we want to pick them up. Skulls on their own are worth less points. They're only about 100, but since you can get 8 of them, and they add a ton more to your overall counter, this is going to be our strategy throughout. So managing those items, where they drop, where they bounce, is a huge part of this run. You can already sort of see that happening. There's a lot going on your screen, so some things to look out for. In the top left is our overall high score. That's the number we really want to get as high as possible throughout this showcase. It's going to go up the whole time because that's how scores work. You can see our health next to that. That's going to be those little green shiny things. Right now we have 3 health. And of course, before I finish explaining that, we're on our first boss. This is Giant Cow Mary. Everyone say hi, Mary.
Hi, Mary.
Giant Cow Mary has 2 phases. Each time a phase dies, everything on screen turns into score items. So we're going to be looking out for that. That's going to be fantastic for us because score items, as you can imagine, increase our score, which is something we're looking to do. At this point, Mary's eyes have turned red. She's a little unhappy with us, but I could understand that as well. We're attacking her quite rapidly with many different things going on. We're going to time our power-ups trying to run this out. You can see there's a bunch of boxes on screen. Now, we could start destroying those, but when we win this boss fight, those turn into extra items. So you saw that Ray waited there for a moment, got everything to spawn in so we can collect as many points as possible right there at the end. First stage done. Great job. Thank you so much. We've got a little bit of a timer, so if we have time for a donation before the next stage, that would be a great chance for a single donation.
Yeah, of course, and there's so much going on screen, so I totally get that. $25 from Asuka424. So happy for Ray to show off such an amazing shump. They are such a great person, an amazing producer, and someone I'm so lucky to know in this happy little speedrunning community. Less than 3, you, Ray, and keep being awesome so I can keep yelling randomly during breaks.
Thanks, Asuka.
That's fantastic. We're now into our second stage. This is Graveyard. This stage is nice because the entire stage has a floor. And again, floors are important because you can see the items bouncing. So before, you saw a lot more of the silver platinum crowns. You saw a lot more of those gold crowns. Now you're going to see a lot more skull rings popping up at us, which is exactly what we're looking for. So this is fantastic. Here again, enemies can be spawning from wherever. You can see there's some indicators on screen for where they might be coming in. But in good news, Ray knows everything, and so can just immediately tell where they're going to appear, so is already maneuvering around to get the most out of these. Another important thing to note that's different in this game from other games is that terrain does not harm you, which is a little unusual for this category. So we can run into the terrain, we can be up against it, and even if it looks like the terrain will squish us against the side of the screen, we never actually die to it, which is fantastic. And as a Mario speedrunner, I'm so jealous because this is cheating, but it's actually not, it's part of the game. Another thing to note though is that if enemies are too close to the wall, then their revenge bullets, which is something I'll explain momentarily, can get eaten up, so we sometimes want to go around those walls. But here is a great showcase of, looks like we should have gotten squished, never mind, we're fine. So revenge bullets are something where, you'll notice there's a lot of bullets on screen, actually, let me just acknowledge that first, they're going everywhere. But these little yellow ones that kind of look like stars with 4 points on them are called revenge bullets. What happens is when we kill an enemy, those revenge bullets will spawn in. You can see them flooding in. What Ray needs to do is maneuver our two familiars or options, which are these birds, those little circles right now to the right of Sakura, to sort of mop those up and turn those into scoring items for us.
Yeah, flashing light warning, by the way.
Oh yeah, sorry, flashing light warning. The house, any large sprite is going to flash every time it gets hit, and obviously we are hitting things very quickly. Anytime there's a large sprite on screen, please make sure you're taking care of yourself there. With these revenge bullets, they're gonna pop in from a lot of different places. Right now, we're still on death mode 1, so they'll mostly be in front of us, but it's good to keep an eye out for them. There is a boss on every stage. You can already see the one off to the right. It doesn't take damage yet, but we're getting scoring items, so we're hitting it early. This is Buried Baron Jordan, which for some reason is a tongue twister for me, and that's fine. In this case, we're controlling the damage that we're doing to the boss in order to avoid getting some of the harder patterns, and we're using our lock-on in order to charge our meter in the bottom left. So bottom left meter we haven't talked about, but you can think of that as a power-up meter. You'll see right now it's at 300, it's going up to 400. The type of attack we're using is what's causing us to be able to charge this up. That only works in boss fights though, actually, because it will actually decrease it at any other point in time. You can see with this lock-on shot, we sort of have these 3 beams coming out toward the boss to do all the damage together. We do want to defeat the boss while we're at full power up to get the maximum points, and it also gives us some setup for the next level, which is fantastic. There we go. Second boss already down. You're cruising. This is fantastic. All right, as we go between levels, once again, now's a great time for a donation.
Woohoo! 2 bosses down. Keep up the great work. And I have a $25 from Adderheart that says, "What is going on?"
That's a great question. I ask myself that quite often when looking at the screen. But it's fantastic to see. You have time for one more if you'd like it.
I have another fast one for as fast as this run is going. $50 from Mom6226 that says, "Go fast, Raelcun."
Oh, thank you so much. All right, our next stage here is going to be Port Town, back down to A row. So with Port Town, it's a little bit of a sea level, which means that once again, we don't always have ground. Water, as it turns out, is a liquid and not a solid, so we don't get that bouncing effect unless we're sort of over the top of ships. Ships are going to be considered large objects, so again, they will be flashing a little bit. Please watch out for that. But they do count as ground, which is fantastic because that means you can see those items bouncing and exploding into more items, which is exactly what we want. But the ships, as you just saw, also give us items if we blow them up. So there's a bit of a balancing game where you want to keep the ships around long enough. They're not ships yet. Ships around long enough in order to bounce the items off of them and maximize your score. But you do want to blow them up before they leave the screen so you can take advantage of all the points that they're going to give you. With this, we're seeing a lot of different enemies. One thing to note is different enemies have different patterns. We'll talk about that a little bit more later, but if you're looking at what to watch, some things to point out again are that bottom left corner. We're currently in power-up mode. You see the numbers running down. In between, we'll charge it up. We'll talk about power-up in a second. And we're increasing our score the whole time. But since this level is a little bit more laid-back piratey, I say laid back as this chaos is happening. It's laid back relative to what we're going to see later. We've got a little bit more time for a few donations or any updates on some of the incentives that I know we're excited about today.
Excuse me, this is laid back?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Are you sure? Okay.
Ray has told me this is laid back.
And also the score is in billions with a B, right?
Yes.
Am I getting that right? Okay, 4.5 billion on the score. As for the incentives, we got $50 from Bubble Tea that says, can't wait for the Hades run. Cerberus is the bestest boy, and so is Peanut Butter. And remember, there is an incentive open for the Hades run. It's the 2 players, 1 controller weapon run. And we're almost quarter way through, but we still have about 19,000 to go to get there. So remember to click that donation incentive if that's where you want your money to go to.
Perfect. Definitely make sure that happens. We want to see that incentive. And right now we're seeing a boss. Oh, it's gone. Phase 1. Phase 2, surprise, there's more to this boss than just the beginning of it. This is Wandering Reaper Death Scythe. The bosses in this game have the coolest names and it's incredible. There was Phase 2. This guy goes pretty fast. One thing to note is that, as you might imagine from a boss named Wandering Reaper Death Scythe, does have scythes. Scythes are these things on the screen. They count as items, and the reason that's important is because those will only damage for half a hit if they hit. But of course, we could also just be awesome and never get hit, and then you don't even need to know that. You're just done with the boss already. Very nice job there.
I didn't need to do it there, but items also don't do damage to you if you're in power-up mode. So if I was in danger, I could power up early and not get hit by it.
There are so many strategies that go into this run. I'm barely scratching the surface with what's happening in here.
Quick one.
Time for another donation. Okay, well, $10 from I'm gonna
Hypnotics.
Hypnotic. Yes. Thank you so much. Deathsmiles on the schedule. Call that video Ray Ming. Let's go, Ray. Been lovely to finally meet you this week, less than 3.
Yeah, it's been great. Hib, thanks for stopping by. It's great to see you.
Awesome. All right, we are now on to Swamp Wastes. So this is something that, again, with our level routing, our level order here, we did plan it out so we could get items that are beneficial to us at certain points. So from here on out, we get some power-ups that we can get from enemies. So this is a fantastic level to do at this point in time. Fun fact, though, Sakura is actually from this stage. If you play as other characters, Sakura is the final boss of this level. So we'll have to see what they did with the boss when we get there. That's a little while away, though. For right now, we're taking advantage of some of the enemies that are spawning on the sort of top right side of the screen to get all these bounces in, because again, we really want those bounces to happen. And something we called out earlier, again, when enemies explode, they give us these revenge bullets. We are mopping those up for score, so we do want those to spawn on screen. It sounds wild to me that I'm saying we want more bullets heading in our direction, but we actually do. So we want to make sure that we don't blow up any of those enemies while they're in any of this terrain so that we can get the maximum number of items on screen, maximum number of points. Because again, we're going for some high scores here. Here we see sort of like a larger enemy. They each have different type of attack patterns. Some of the larger enemies will have multiple attack patterns, so we gotta be ready for whatever they throw at us. But thankfully not too bad. And again, Ray knows exactly what to expect with all of this, which is fantastic, so we're good to go.
Yeah, and I don't think we mentioned it yet, but when I power up at 1,000, it also turns all the bullets on screen into items that I can pick up for score. So I waited there to power up, just so that enemy put a lot of bullets on screen before I used the power up.
Absolutely. Let's talk about powering up a little bit. So I've mentioned this number on the bottom left, that sort of green hued number a couple times. This is our counter here, and when that hits 1,000, we get our full power up. So if we activate our power up while it's at 1,000, as Ray mentioned, all the bullets turn into awesome things for us. We can activate it sooner, so if we do need to clear stuff out, we can take advantage of that, but we do have to build it up every time we want these power ups.
Flashing warning here, by the way.
Thank you. That brings us to our boss. So again, the boss in the original version, when you're not playing as Sakura, is Sakura. So Ray, any guesses as who it's going to be?
The Yeti.
Oh, that would be an exciting cameo. Oh, something's happening. Something's happening. Sakura? Question marks? There's 2 of us. Who could have seen that coming? Audience, are you surprised? Wow, thank you so much. I'm excited that everyone was completely caught off guard by the twist of they just left the same boss in but gave a lore reason why this happened. So we're gonna be fighting Sakura. One thing that we're gonna be trying to do here is going for a speed kill on Sakura, because the longer that Sakura is alive, the harder things are gonna get for us. So we wanna take her out as quickly as possible. We cannot be building up certain parts of our score during this fight, so it's not that we want to stick around, keep things going. We just want to finish this and get things out of here while dodging all of these patterns before they get even more chaotic and scary. With this fight, there's a bit of a balance. We do more damage if we're closer to the boss, but a lot of the attacks will spawn around the boss, so the closer we are, the riskier we're playing, and the more risk we're taking that we're gonna get hit by stuff. But of course, Ray's got skills, we're good to go.
Yeah, and we waited to kill her there because a lot of what I'm doing in these stages is I want to end a power-up with a lot of score items on screen because then they get vacuumed towards me. And there's a nice setup for that on the next stage if I end at around 350 on my power-up meter. So just, she was dying real fast, so we just stopped damaging her, wait for it, finish her off there. And another quick donation if you have time for it.
Yeah, so we got $100 from Galdera, who says, "Brave souls, why have you come here? If you seek to prevent my return, then I shall consume you all. Unless you donate to the Prevent Cancer Foundation, putting this towards the English language blindfold incentive. See you at World's End, mortals."
Oh my goodness, that Octopath run coming up soon is going to be so fantastic. I cannot wait to see that boss. I really hope we get to see it blindfolded. That's going to be incredible. For now, though, we are on our next stage. This is Forest, and this is where we're now in death mode. We talked about death mode earlier because, of course, you know, a game named Deathsmiles needs a death mode on top of everything happening on screen. But one important thing to keep in mind is that that's going to mean there's even more stuff happening. As you can see, that already complicates the level quite a bit. More revenge bullets are going to spawn. Enemies can have more aggressive patterns. It's just a whole adventure. What you see here as well is these like ivy snakes coming up out of the ground. And again, we're doing so much strategy to try to maximize our score here. So rather than blowing them up right away, they do explode when you hit the head. We actually want to wait and let them spawn on screen as much as possible so we can get as many of their segments to generate scoring items for us. Similar thing here with these like floating islands. They will shoot out rocks, and if we blow up the rocks, we can get items for that. But that means there's more stuff on our screen, so more chaos happening, and we still want to blow up the islands before they leave screen. So this whole section is just this chaotic balance of wanting more stuff to come at you, but also not wanting to get hit by any of that stuff. So Ray is balancing masterfully here to get everything to work correctly. So every once in a while, I'll want to say something and I'll just have to pause because my brain is trying to process everything on screen and it just can't keep up with it. And so it just goes into one of those little like beach ball loops that you see on Mac computers. With this, though, one thing we haven't talked about yet is in the bottom left. So we have that giant number that's counting up. You can see we're in our power-up mode now. Again, we activate power-up mode. That counter drains down. We only have so much time for it. All the enemies drop score items. Those score items are, again, those crowns, those skulls, stuff that's going to give us more points. If we do that at 1K, we get the full power-up. And overall counter goes up. We'll talk about that in a moment because I think we're already at our next boss. So our boss here is Conqueror of the Forest. I think it's Wispy Woods. So this is the scariest version of Kirby you ever could have seen on the GDQ stream. Well, we're already doing a good job here with this one. Dodging the first patterns, dodging all the second patterns. Thankfully, the second one we can just kind of hang out near the bottom of the screen. That's my favorite type of attack pattern, but we still need to be careful. But then, of course, let's just throw giant apples with teeth at everyone. That's great. Love that. Thank you, game. And now we're going to get waves of bullets with apples coming in from the top and bottom of the screen. Lots of chaos, and the patterns that these apples have is a little bit randomized. There's a couple different directions they can go. We're getting vertical ones, which thankfully is the nicer pattern, but they could have also gone horizontal. There's just so much happening with that boss fight. I'm so glad you got through that. GG. Oh. All right, I think we got time for a traditional between-level donation break.
Yes, of course. And by the way, the Kirby boss also throws apples at you, so it's definitely the horror version of that.
Thank you.
$25 from Blake Black 99. Hello, AGDQ 2024 and Deathsmiles Speedrun. This speedrunning event means a lot to me. My dad recently got diagnosed with cancer back in September, October 2023. We are staying strong and enjoying some speedruns. Hype.
Hype indeed. Let's go. We are on to C2 Volcano. This is the last of our standard stages, and we do save this one for last because it is the highest scoring, and at this point we have the highest overall counter, which is the thing that I have not told you about. So the bottom left of the screen, there's a smaller number. Well, it's actually a larger value, but the digits themselves are smaller. That's just been counting up this whole time. Basically, that is a crucial number for us when it comes to score because that number gets added to every single item we pick up. And as you can imagine, that's how we get into these billion gajillions of points that we're getting throughout the run. So we want that to keep going up, but it only goes up when we're in power-up states. That's why we go to power-up so often, in addition to all the other benefits that it gives us. This is another great level to talk about terrain. As you can see, we have ground to the left and right of us, so items can bounce off of there, which is fantastic. In the middle, we don't really have that luxury, so we do need to scoop up the items, but we do have an infinite vertical vacuum that just sort of zoops everything up into us, so as long as we're in the middle, we can catch stuff before it falls. Again, reminder that we don't take damage from terrain, and we don't have to worry about being caught behind terrain and being pushed off screen. We will always be able to advance. So we can use the terrain to our advantage to hide behind it because the enemy bullets don't always go through it. so that can give us some safety. But we want to make sure we're killing those enemies outside of the terrain so we still get all of the different revenge bullets. You'll see us move to different locations. I keep saying us as if I can play this game. You'll keep seeing Ray move to different locations to take advantage of that, sometimes even getting sort of into the jaws of the beast up there with these different cave-like structures. This is one of those levels where right now we're going vertical, but it'll change up at some point. And as you might imagine from a level that is titled Volcano, at some point we're going to get some lava as well. You'll see different enemies coming in from the left and right. Oh, there's the toad frogs. Those are one of my favorites. So lava is now coming up from the bottom of the screen, which is more relevant to point out. We do need to dodge that, and as you can see, it's leaving these very large bullet patterns behind. That is both, of course, adding difficulty to the level in terms of stuff we have to dodge, but if we power up at the right time, then that can also be something that we can either clear out or take advantage of in terms of gaining scoring items. So lava's maybe our friend? Probably not our friend. Lava's not our friend. Okay, just want to check. You never know. It's good to be careful on things like this. And again, with this death mode, we're getting a lot of stuff, but we're getting more points, which is our goal. And that brings us to our next boss, the God of Flames. Woo! Seriously, the boss names are so cool. Wish my game had cool boss names. I just get Bowser. So this is God of Flames. And right now, rocks are falling from the ceiling, so we've got hazards that are going to be coming in from the top of the screen. And we're still in a volcano, so there's still lava, so we're still going to have hazards coming up from below us on screen as well. So this is a game where you really can't just focus on one spot. Attacks are going to be coming in from every angle. Oh yeah, that's in addition to the actual boss bullets that are coming at us too. So we've got like 3 different things happening. Lots of chaos to try to work out for on this one. In boss fights, revenge bullets aren't worth anything, so normally where you'd see Ray maneuver around to pick them all up, right now we can kind of just leave them there, but you do see that we're in slow-mo now. Again, Ray talked about earlier how this game does have almost a lag mechanic where if too much is on screen, the game will slow down as if it was a lag issue, and that's partially just to make sure that you can actually dodge some of those incredibly difficult patterns. And there we go. I had more things to say, but you just went too quickly. You're too good at this game, Ray. All right, coming up after this, we have a bit of a cutscene. I think we're going to let it play out. Awesome. So we're going to have plenty of time for some event updates, donations. T-Pad, over to you.
Woohoo! You are doing an amazing job, Ray, so please keep that up. A few donations here. We have $50 from Blue Braid Elf that says, yeehaw!
Yeehaw.
Yeehaw.
Feel that for sure. $50 from Kara is a Mime that says, love you, Ray. Thank you so much for helping me out this week. You truly make these events so welcoming and so wholesome.
Thanks, Kara. You're great.
And for an incentive update, we are still inching closer to the 2 that are open. We have a blindfolded Galdera boss fight. Remember, Galdera just donated to help get that incentive. If you want to see the final boss beaten blindfolded, as if it weren't hard enough, please donate towards that. We are less than $5,000 away, so we are getting much closer. Of course, we got to hit it by the end of the Octopath run. And then after that, we have the 2-player, 1-controller weapon run out of Hades. Let's see here. The little blurb says, if met, Alcalana and Trash Lapras would collab on an extra weapon using the Achilles Spear. But of course, they got to use the same controller. I'm looking forward to both these incentives. So let's get those met. We can do it, Twitch chat.
Absolutely. I've seen Arcalane and Trash Lapras do that run before. It is incredible. Definitely want to catch that, so make sure you get your donations in and assign them while you're donating. This brings us, though, into the first of our extra stages. This is the Gorge. By the way, before we were not in death mode, then we were in death mode. Now we're in death mode 2. Death mode 2 is now active, meaning enemy patterns can be even meaner than before, and we get even more revenge bullets. Not only that, they start trying to jump scare us by spawning in behind where we are. Like that. That was good timing. Thank you for that. So we really need to be, again, Ray needs to be watching everything on screen. They're coming out of everywhere. There's chaos, and they can just come from places that you're expecting to be safe. You've kind of already cleared an area. Everything behind you should be fine. But then never mind, the game decided it wanted to be scary again. So that's something to keep an eye out for. Another thing with these extra levels is they do get longer. You're starting to see some level or enemies from previous stages remixed back in. So we've got some of those train guys back from level 1. Normally the levels are only a certain length, but these ones start to really expand, and that becomes an extra level of challenge because the amount of focus that this game takes is incredible. In case that wasn't obvious just from watching the amount on screen. But to keep that focus and keep that intensity for this long is really where this game tries to throw everything at you and really builds up some of these challenges. Reminder again that we can't get stuck behind terrain, but these enemies kind of do some stuff with it. So we're modeling around the terrain. We're kind of taking... In case you weren't wondering, this game is scary.
I got a little off route. I saved it. It's fine.
Very nice. Good recovery. So you saw us going up at the beginning. Again, Ray mentioned this is a 360 game, so now we are going to the right. We can hang out behind that wall for a little bit of extra safety for a while, but eventually it does leave us. How sad. Now we have to go fight more things. Another thing that these bonus stages introduce is this mini boss. So you see here you can see we have the boss meter on the right side of the screen, so we actually have to take this enemy out entirely before we can move on. We don't really have to rush it because we just wait for enemies to spawn on the other side, so we can be a little bit leisurely, as much as you can with bullets flying at you from literally every conceivable angle. But this is our first mini boss and it's gone, so very nicely done there.
Yeah, Char alluded to it, but if I killed that boss too quickly, which I could have done, then these enemies wouldn't spawn yet, so we just have downtime where there's no scoring opportunities. So we take our time killing that boss, just get more points out of him.
I just love the amount of swagger of, I could have killed it faster, and I just chose not to. That's just so impressive. So going on, some of these stages are going to have mini bosses. Interestingly though, we talked about some of the different shots. Right now we're using the beam shot. I haven't talked about that really, but you see that we're firing a bunch of stuff in a straight line. Our two ravens, our options over there, our friends on the side, they're firing out these spell circles. What's important about those spell circles is that they actually have lingering hitboxes. So as they progress, the enemies will constantly take damage if they're in contact with them. We just did another power-up, and one thing that's great about that with these spell circles is that as they're damaging the enemies, they are constantly dropping more score items for us. So we usually are using this attack. This is what you've seen the most throughout this run. We may swap back and forth, because one thing that's interesting is if you're in the lock-on attack, for example, you actually get more things to drop from some of these enemies. The game, however, doesn't check what type of attack was fired that actually hit the enemy. It's only checking for what type of attack you're currently doing. So if we blow up an enemy and we quickly swap to the higher scoring attack, we can actually sort of trick the game into giving us the extra points, even though we're using this more damaging attack that keeps our meter in order to take it down. Once again, I'm just looking at all the chaos, which is always fun. So many spiders. Why are there spiders? If you don't like spiders, I apologize for this entire speedrun. But again, this is sort of like a gothic-y horror type game, so you can see that that's really where a lot of the inspiration elements are coming from. We're going to see some beautiful architecture later on. Again, we don't worry about being at the top of the screen. I know it looks a little scary up there, but we don't take damage even if we're coming through. One thing to watch in the background right now is there's some glowing red dots that aren't hitting us. Wonder what those could be. Anyone want to guess? Wow, it was an entire army of additional spiders. Why? That is my least favorite part of this entire game. It's just a giant conglomerate of spiders spawning in out of nowhere. Here's another spot we're using the terrain to our advantage, kind of hiding behind this platform, letting everything bounce around us while staying out of range of those enemy bullets, which is a fantastic way to, again, build up our score while staying safe. There is a penalty for getting hit besides just losing part of your health, so we do want to avoid as much damage as possible as we go throughout this very chaotic run. Love these giant pillars. I like to call them thwomps. I know they're not thwomps, but if thwomps had nightmares, this is what it would be, so I think that works out okay.
Thwomps had nightmares?
Yeah, do you think thwomps have nightmares?
I never considered it until just now. I'll have to think about that.
Chat, feel free to donate and let us know if you think thwomps have nightmares, dreams, or some other unholy combination. We're getting close to the next boss fight, though, so do you want to take it from here?
Sure. So this boss has two worms. They're going to shoot at me from both sides. So I'm going to try and avoid them while they're synced up with shots. So we're going to start at the top, just fly straight down to dodge the first one. Then we're going to power up on their second shot. Oh, we got a half hit there. That's fine. And then after that, the power-up canceled some of those bullets. Now they're no longer firing at the same time anymore, which this still looks chaotic as all hell, but this is much more manageable when they're not firing at the same time.
And that was the boss fight. Can we give Ray a round of applause for narrating that chaos while it was happening? That is so impressive. Thank you so much. All right, of course, with the end of a stage, that means we're waiting for the next one. So hey, T-Pat, how's it going?
Yeah, it's going great. Congrats again on that amazing boss fight. And let me tell you, if thwomps have nightmares, do robots dream of electric sheep? That's got to be in the same vein, right?
Of course.
$15 from Sammy Gibson, a.k.a. Sibby, says, good luck on the run,
Sammy.
Ray. Cheering you on with the TQC people and some others. Good luck, less than 3.
Thanks so much, Sammy. I love you.
All right, this brings us into Ice Palace. We get a small cutscene here with some plot. Do you want to talk about plot?
So it's a shmup, so there's a little bit of plot. There's no comics, there's no cartoon. There's no extra cat-like material for this game. This is just our father, laughing evilly. He was always summoning more demons. And this just means we hit death mode level 3. So when we get into the final stage, we're going to have the maximum difficulty, but that means the most revenge bullets, so the most possible scoring opportunity.
See that balance? Every time it's like, well, it's scarier, but it's scorier. See?
Scorier.
It's totally a real word, not what I just
It is now.
There we go. Anyway, this is Ice Palace, the last of our extra stages. We did get to say hi to our dad there. He will come back later. He's not a very nice dude, so we'll have to deal with that a little bit later. We are still in Death Mode 2 for now. Death Mode 3 starts when we get to the next stage. And this is the highest scoring stage of all of them. So of course we save it until we have the maximum counter. Because again, that bottom left corner, that number that's like close to, I think 700,000, it moves pretty quick, it's hard to see. That's getting added for every single item we pick up. That's one of the reasons why exploding items into those components is so beneficial to our score. And if the stage has the most items, then we can take advantage of having that score. Powered up again, I was about to say, look, we're at 1K. Oh, look, we're not at 1K because we powered up again. If you were cheering along at home with every time we said power and like really got into the zone, I hope you still have a voice at this point because I don't know if I would.
Sometimes those hives like to go immune, and I don't know what causes it, so...
Oh, that's fun. I love that my enemies just stay there on screen. We have some ice worms in this level. You notice it's very frosty themed. I like how we have both the volcano and the ice. It's good to get balance in your video games, have everything sorted out. But at this point, I think we've got a little bit more time. This is one of the longer levels, so if we'd like to talk more about those incentive updates, T-Pat, what do you got?
Yeah, of course, we want to start pushing for that blindfolded Galdera boss fight. We are less than $5,000 away to that. So as you're donating for this amazing run happening, make sure to click that drop-down box to hit the check mark that says donate for the blindfolded Galdera fight. I don't think the actual drop-down box makes that noise. I just made that noise for no reason.
It's beautiful noise, though.
Thank you. And we, of course, have some amazing donations coming in. We have $250 from Goomba on a Roomba and says, love all you awesome people. And we got another $250 from Danae saying, always such a great AGDQ, loving all the bonus games.
Yeah, it's exciting that we get to see so many games, so we've got so much time in our schedule to bring things in. It's been fantastic. I'm so excited you all get to see this run. Here we are. You can see more enemies starting to come in on the side of the screen. Again, those larger enemies are going to have different patterns. And here's where we get the jellyfish. The jellyfish are awful. They're the worst things. So terrible. They're important because they give a bunch of items, but the thing is they drop these pods. The pods are a bit random. And when you blow up the pods explode with random bullets. And for a game where you want to be very consistently dodging everything, having random bullets coming in and really throwing off all your safe spots is not really what you want to have happen. So those jellyfish are something to watch out for anytime they're on screen. Got to be looking out for these. Taking advantage of the train there again, taking out the enemy. You'll see larger enemies are more common as we get into these later levels. Difficulty's definitely ramping up. That pattern always scares me. You're just fine with it. This is great. I'm glad one of us is chill right now.
It's not as scary as it looks as long as I have 1,000 power up there, because then I just turn all of those bullets into score items, which is why I let him live a little bit longer.
Nice. I would say try to keep up with the score, but it moves really quickly. So if you try to type the score in Twitch chat, I think it would be changed by the time you typed the first digit. So maybe don't. But
also, I think Boobot likes to bop you if you type too many numbers.
True. Okay, don't do that.
Almost at 100 billion, that might be a bad idea.
Instead, Twitch chat, you can say, whoa, that's a really high score. And that'll be a good way to acknowledge how well we're doing here. All right, we're getting deeper and deeper into these frosty caverns. You can see jellyfish. Well, you can kind of see the jellyfish at the top of the screen. I think Ray's blowing them up. Very good call on that one.
Don't like the jellyfish.
Do not like the jellyfish. They are not our friends. Sometimes jellyfish are adorable, but nope. There's another one. Look at that, trying to sneak up on us, drop everything on our heads. How rude. Want to be taking those out just as quickly as we possibly can. These lance enemies in the bottom are not any nicer. And here we go with the merman waves. Look at this coordinated synchronized swimming as they leap gracefully out of the bottom of the screen. This is one of my favorite parts, because just look at that. The coordination. Like, how much rehearsal do you think you would need to have to jump with that perfect spacing every single time? I don't think we could pull it off, but...
And then we just blew them all up.
Oh.
They practiced for how many hours, and we just blew them up.
That's okay. We're playing a game for charity. It's very important that we do this. The lance enemies are back. They just have a very mean, very bullet stream heavy pattern. So the earlier we can take them out, again, the better off we're going to be not having to deal with it.
Also, our overall counter is maxed out at 1 million right now. It's not going to go up. So it was one of the things I wanted to do was max out the counter. Happy about that.
Success. Very nicely done. You can also see we're getting these crystal chains coming through. For these ones, we want to make sure that we're destroying as many of the segments as possible before we destroy the core. If we blow up the core, the entire thing explodes. We don't get the points for all the extra segments that you see on screen. So we want to take those out first. But again, if we leave them too long, they'll scroll off the screen and then we don't get any points at all. So it's that balancing act, that risk reward that is constantly playing to try to figure out how we optimize the score and get as much out of this as we possibly can. So every time you see one of these, you can watch that decision making as we go for either the segments to try to maximize the points or the core to say, get out of my face, I'm done with you right now, I need you to move away.
And we're about to hit 100 billion on the score, so that's a nice milestone.
Ooh, that's exciting. I would love for us to hit the 400K mark too.
There we go.
I would love for us to get to that 400K mark during this run. That'd be really cool. I know we're getting close to the end though. And here's our next boss. Our boss here is Forgotten Guardian Ozier. And this one is really obnoxious because those chains that you see swinging around in circles actually block our bullets. So we're getting limited in how much damage we can do to the boss right now. Another thing that's pretty obnoxious with this is we cannot speed kill this boss. So we do have to deal with some of the more scary and dangerous patterns that it has to throw at us, including shooting directly at us and whatever the heck this is. I don't know what this is called except chaos, and it's scary, and I'm glad you got through it. But again, the sooner we kill this phase, the sooner we can move on to some other things. So we're gonna try to balance that out. Again, sometimes we get a little closer to do some more damage, but that's where the bullets are coming from, so spacing is very important. You can see icicles as well. It's not just the boss. The icicles are coming in from the bottom of the screen. There's some at the top of the screen. If we don't take care of those, they'll come down and try to crash into us. So there's so much to manage outside of even just the boss bullet patterns, which are already pretty overwhelming for someone like me. I wouldn't have made it this far anyway, so that's okay. Revenge bullets are still a thing, so you'll see those pop on screen every once in a while as well. Not too big of a deal for us during this fight, but something that we at least need to be watching out for. And there we go, nice timing on that. And that brings us into phase 2. So in phase 2, the maces are gone, which is great because that's blocking us from damage, so those are out of the way. But now we get a boss with not one, but 2 faces. And really evil patterns, in case that wasn't obvious by what's happening on your screen. So the second face is down there in the back, and like, what the heck is this? Why, game? Why would you do a circle of icicles with a wave of bullets like that? It's just brutal and not very nice. This is a great time to look at the actual hitboxes and see just how close we get to these bullets as we're dodging through them. And there we go. Okay, that was scary. That boss is terrifying. Very nicely done. I'm glad you made it through.
I needed to take a hit at some point before the final boss. I just wanted to wait a little longer for more points, so.
I like how it's like, oh, that was fine. I just wanted more points. Like you're already at like, what, a gajillion? All right.
You got a short break here for some donations here, T-Pat.
All right, and I just wanted to say, because I always wanted to do this, 1 billion hype!
That's 100 billion.
Yeah, 100 billion, yeah. $10 from 8-Bit Blues that says, I had to donate during this amazing run. The only thing better than Raelcun's skill is the amazing commentary by Char. Great job, everyone, and keep kicking cancer's butt.
You got time for another one if you'd like it.
Oh, I will. There is so much love for you. $25 from Ivan that says, Ray, you're crushing it. I'm still lost as to what's happening, but numbers going up.
Yes, number go up.
Number go up. That's really all you need to know from this entire run. Like you could just watch the top left side of your screen and just know that you're good to go. Fun fact, by the way, the high score on the top right is actually from SGDQ. I think he said you got it in the practice room, which is really cool. So shout outs to that. But we are now on to our final level. This is Hades Castle. Again, shout out to Hades speedrunning later today. But in ours, we are now in death mode, not level 1, not level 2. Audience, help me out. We are now in death mode level 3. Which just means chaos is happening. Bullets are going to be everywhere. Bosses get incredibly difficult patterns, especially our final boss coming up at the end of the stage. And the revenge bullets not only spawn from the front, the back, but every single side you can think of, and they really try to throw you off and sneak in when you're not expecting it. So it's important to keep your head on a pivot, swivel, make sure you're watching in all directions at all times. With the beginning of the stage, there isn't really much ground, so again, as we think about the scoring aspect of this run, we want the items to bounce. Thankfully, these little castle turrets are ground, but there's really not room for items to bounce. When they bounce, they sort of move to the side. They tend to fall off the castle. So instead, we're going to take advantage of our infinite vertical vacuum and just scoop everything up before it has a chance to fall off screen. While it's ideally good to get the crowns to break into all those skulls and everything, we don't get any points at all if they fall into the void. So we're going to try to avoid having those. I'm doing great today.
Hey!
Avoid having those void out so we can have all the points that we'd like. As you can see at this point, the game is just throwing everything it possibly can at us because we're right at the end. So you get all the enemies from previous levels, giant size enemies. Check out the giant eyeball dude on the top right of the screen. Never mind, it's gone. You don't get to see it anymore. It'll probably come back again later. There it is again. This is its twin sibling, I think. I'm making up lore as we go, because why not? I can do that, right? If I say it as a commentator, it becomes true, right?
Shout out to Bob.
Thank you. We'll see Bob a little bit later in the speedrun. Oh my goodness. And again, check out all these counters and everything. We are trying to max everything out. Stuff is coming in. We talked about how this is a 360-degree game, so you can really see here with the dragons just going in wherever the heck they want to. There was no organization in where these are coming in, and guess who's back?
It's Mary!
Welcome back to Mary the cow. So good to see her again. She's still not in a good mood. Understandably why. We blew her up last time, so she's coming back for some revenge. And trying to make this really difficult on us, but never mind. Bye, Mary.
Bye, Mary.
It's good to see you there for a little bit. Mary the cow is just kind of fun. I like her. She's one of my favorite characters in this game. With this, we're going to be approaching sort of the last critical bits of the stage, so this is a final chance for any donations coming in. You can get a few of them here.
Of course, we got $50 from Now the Storyteller. Says, Deathsmiles is one of my favorite cave shooters. I still have the Xbox 360 faceplates.
Oh,
Nice.
wow.
And $25 from Zandra says, hi, Raelcun.
Hi, Sandra.
Thank you so much for all the uplifting mouse pictures. In return, I'm sending you all my energy for this run. This game really shows there's one solution to all problems, which is that it witches.
Yes, witches.
Yes. Honestly, can't argue with that logic.
No, it's good logic.
There are a number of characters you can play as in this game. Sakura happens to be Ray's favorite style of character. They have different types of attacks. They have different familiars. So like we have these two ravens. One of them is a little tiny dragon that runs around and follows you. So this game looks interesting to you, but for some reason you don't like ravens. You have other options on this, but ravens are going to be our pick of choice for today. We are now inside, by the way. You saw we sort of started with a flyover of a city street, clock tower in the background. We then descended a staircase. We're now sort of inside this area. We're inside this castle that's kind of forming the end of our run. Giant enemies everywhere, both sides of us coming at us strong, so we got to watch out for those. There were chandeliers on the ceiling that we were blowing up and that were falling down like we were in Phantom of the Opera. Like stuff is happening. It's chaos everywhere. The good news is there's bouncing happening, which means we're getting a ton of points from all of this, which is our goal the entire time. So again, just look at this flood of items coming through. The silver on the right turning into the gold in the middle, turning into the skulls on the left side of the screen. That is really helping us maximize that score up there. So it's fantastic to see all of those coming through.
I have no idea what's going on with my routing. We're just kind of winging it at this point.
Perfect. Love that. Really, that's kind of what happens at this point in the run anyway. Like earlier, things are a little bit more controlled, so you can plan out exactly when to use power-ups, which is a lot of what we talked about with the routing. At this point, one, your power meter increases so quickly because there is so many enemies on screen, so much stuff that's attacking you, but also just the chaos starts to get really out of hand. So being able to be flexible and adaptable with when we trigger our power-up state to really clear things out and take advantage of all this maximum score is an incredible skill that's built up over a lot of practices, I'm sure you can imagine. You can see more and more enemies coming through, giant enemies. The lance enemies have been back. Again, each enemy kind of has its own patterns that Ray knows how to deal with, but there's still a lot of them happening at the same time, so you gotta watch out for what's happening on screen. We've now gone back up through the staircase. We're kind of in this observatory area. You can see the moon in the background, which is gonna be a beautiful, dramatic backdrop for our final fight. Giant enemy just flew in from the side and landed with like a crunch on the banister. These buildings, by the way, are the best constructed buildings I've ever seen because they take no damage whatsoever. Like the chandeliers fall down, but these staircases are immaculate. We've been blowing things up on here for the last few minutes. So shout out to whatever architect built this whole system. It is fantastic. We now move into the ballroom section of the final level. From here, we are going to dance gracefully to the right and to the left, blowing things up along the way. So what happens is in sort of these balcony seats on the right and left sides of this room, you're going to see large enemies with very large bullet patterns spawning in, and Ray's gonna try to take them out pretty quickly so that we don't have to deal with too many of those, getting all those items as we go through. But as we dance through the middle of the screen, you'll see these couples just sort of floating and shooting bullets at us for some reason. Why we go from eyeballs on wings and demonic centaurs to Bob and Jill dancing around in a circle, I don't know.
Hi,
but
Bob.
I've named them all Bob. If you have alternate names, feel free to name them because there's a lot of them in this section. So spam chat, donate, let us know what you think. But Bob is my personal favorite here. You can see we now have some of the dogs instead. We went from ogres, dogs before. So this is kind of like a little waltz that we get into before we get into the true final battle of this game. I'd say it's a breather because the music is nice, but it's not. There's bullets everywhere. Chaos is still happening. We've got a giant gargoyle that we got to go fight with a whole spirally bullet pattern, so plenty still happening on screen. You notice we have our power-up ready right now. Again, that bottom left corner says 1,000. That means at any time we can activate it, clear out the whole screen, and get a ton of extra benefits. So we're gonna watch and see when that one comes through. It looks like we're holding on to it for now so we can save it for a more opportune time.
Using it for the final boss. I want to make sure the 1,000 going in.
All right, so
And I
we're
have a full hit, so I don't have to worry about taking a hit here.
Perfect, that's so good. And here we go.
All right, so this first boss has some pretty nasty attacks. The second boss does too. So we have a pretty strict route through here to avoid the worst of them. The first pattern that Jitterbug is going to do here, we're going to see why he's a terrible father here in a second, by the way. Do not follow Jitterbug's example. The first attack he's going to do is somewhat consistent in that he always spawns the same attacks, but where on the screen they spawn is inconsistent. So it's a little bit random. I have to just completely improvise. So we'll be focusing up through that part, and then the second part I'll narrate what's going on. But until this first part ends here, when you see him explode, that's when you're out of time here, T-Pat.
All right, we got $25 for It's Bob, dudes. It says Tyranno Satan Hype. I got $10 from Metal Mickey 88 saying, loving this run with Raelcun. So intense, scary, and amazing at the same time. Love the awesome commentary. It makes me feel like I'm hanging out with my best friends. AGDQ has the best runners and people in general. Thanks, everyone. And time for one more.
Yep.
Let's go $50 from It's Rick. It says, is that a Hades 2 players, one controller incentive I see? I have to see that. Common Twitch chat, let's make that happen.
What is this pattern?
I know.
I do not like this pattern. I need to take a hit here. There we go.
We're back up. Okay, all right.
All right, so I'm going to charge up to 1,000 before this finishes. We thankfully have enough time here because he's not taking damage while he's charging up here. Then when the screen flashes, I'm going to bump into him on purpose because it'll cancel this wave from appearing. And if I do it at the right time, the second one won't appear either while we're invulnerable. Then we're going to power up through the third one, wait a little bit, and then now we're doing tons of damage, and the fourth one should just get canceled by us defeating Jitterbug.
That was beautiful. Great job with all four of those. But we're not quite done, are we?
No, this is my favorite boss. Just T-Pat, read the name when it comes up on screen for me, okay?
Okay.
It'll come up in big Gothic lettering on the center of the screen. And since we didn't bomb, we get 2 life up here, so I'll grab that.
I was almost going to read Life Up.
No. Right, here comes T-Pat.
Okay. Demonic Impertinator, Tyno, Satan. I missed the last. It came up so fast.
It's such a name, isn't it?
I wasn't ready.
This is Demonic Imperator Tyranno Satan, which is ridiculous to try to read. You did a
That
great
was
job.
ridiculous.
And it is such a cool name. It is also an incredibly difficult boss. The music scales up at this point. We're going to try to do things as quickly as possible. Right now, it's on the top of the screen, which is going to make our point-blank strategies a little bit more difficult. We're trying to hit the heart. That is where all the damage goes in. That's the weak point. But you'll see that since it's at the top and we're sort of navigating around, difficult to avoid everything coming at us while still staying focused on doing damage. So we're doing our best there. Explodes again. Love how much everything explodes. This last phase is really tricky. These thank you for bombing. I forgot that you were going to do that. That's great. There's these like blobs that spawn in, these little bubbles. They're random, and then they have random bullets inside of them, which is just a little too much chaos to do.
Why did you go up there? I've never seen him do that before. That's never happened before.
That's never happened before?
He usually goes to the left, not the top middle. I have no idea what that was. So this is Bloody Jitterbug. He will only spawn if you get to this point without using a continue. We have 3 hits. I'm going to focus up. Just enjoy this music, and I don't think it needs much commentary as to why this is difficult. right at the end.
Right, of course, it's like 2 seconds away. That's good though, because I can breathe again, because I forgot to do that for the last 30 seconds. This boss is so scary. Oh my goodness. Really focus on like the hitboxes here. You can see just how close we cut things in order to dodge all these attacks. We have some patterns that are set. We have some attacks that are following us, so you can see Ray moving around to try to dodge those and sort of get those into spots where they're going to be workable.
He smacked me with that bright light, counts as a half a hit. It's so rude.
That is incredibly impolite. How dare he?
I'm going to charge up on him a little bit while he's transitioning because it doesn't take damage.
All right, in this final phase coming in, the waves of bullets are coming in from both sides of the screen. There are certain safe spots that will show up, so you can see Ray sort of navigating through those. But what you'll also notice is revenge bullets spawning in, those little yellow versions of these. Those do spawn in the safe spot. So in addition to hitting the boss, dodging all the bullets, and generally just trying to focus in this chaos, Ray also needs to maneuver the little birds back and forth to try to pick up those revenge bullets and recreate those safe spaces that are getting closed off every single time the boss fires stuff at us. At this point, though, it's getting close. You can see the boss health in the bottom right corner. Almost there, almost there, almost there, almost there. Yes! GG! Time will be coming up soon. I think you're going to call it when we hit the fade out, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, after this. And that's time.
Congratulations, that was incredible. Nailed that one. So many bosses, so many evil patterns, and you came through it all.
Yeah, nail biter. It was a little close. This was added pretty last minute, so I'm happy with how this went. Getting a 1cc in a live showcase is always difficult. Big thank you to Char Bunny for helping me commentate. This would have been so much harder if I didn't have her here to help me say all the words. And I just want to say thank you to everybody here at GDQ who supported me. This game's been on backup for a while. Glad it finally got into the schedule. Thank you to the games committee. And thanks everybody who was cheering me on when it got into the schedule. I appreciate you all. We're going to quickly decide that we can't leave our terminally ill mother behind because our father, once again, is terrible. And I just want to say that, you know, I got started in GDQ because my own father was dealing with cancer, so I always appreciate seeing everybody rallying around this cause. PCF is great. They've done a lot of great work over the years, both in prevention and also they have some research causes. So thank you everybody who's donated to the marathon so far. You're all fantastic. Keep watching. I hope you enjoy the show.